She sat in the dark, not because there was no light, but because the light reminded her too much of everything she used to feel. The walls of her penthouse were painted in warm tones: cream, ivory, rose gold, but none of them could warm her anymore. Outside, Los Angeles blinked like a restless child. Headlights moved like white blood cells under a microscope. Alive, fast, always moving, but inside, stillness. Cold stillness. She curled her fingers around a cup of untouched tea, lukewarm. Now, just like everything else, there was a faint hum in the room, from the refrigerator, from the air conditioner, from her heart. She stared at the phone screen again. Brightness on full, battery low, a message at the top, from a name she hadn't deleted. She should have, but she couldn't. Not yet, not ever, maybe. "Are you okay?" It read. 3 words. That meant both everything and nothing. He had sent them months ago, back when she still waited for them. Now they only mocked her. She never opened it. If she opened it, it would be real. And if it were real, she'd have to accept the ending. But what if it wasn't the end? What if it was just a pause? She closed her eyes. The memory hit like a wave. Hard, unforgiving, and salty. It was raining in Paris that night. Not much. Just enough to make the cobblestones glisten. She stood on the rooftop of Hotel Particulier, hair tucked under a scarf. He was late, as always. But she didn't leave. She never left. Even when he did. Even when he left her on red. Even when he ghosted her in real life. Because she always believed he would come back. Because love makes fools of the soft-hearted. And she had always been too soft. She could still remember the sound of his shoes on the wet tiles. She hadn't turned around. He didn't say her name, but she knew it was him. She always knew. Even in a crowd, even in a storm, she turned slowly. And there he was, hair longer, eyes tired, heart unreadable. She studied his face like a map she once knew by heart. But now, there were new roads, new detours, wreckage. They stood under that tiny overhang, not speaking. She waited for him to explain. He waited for her to explode. Neither happened. Instead, she said, "You look thinner," he said. "You still know me too well." And just like that, they were back in it. The pull, the gravity, the ache. He offered her wine. She took it. It tasted like apologies. He tried to smile. She didn't let him. Because smiling made it easier. And this wasn't supposed to be easy. It was supposed to hurt. Because pain meant it mattered. And God, it mattered. He handed her a napkin. She wiped her eyes, even though they weren't crying. He placed his hand over hers. She flinched. He noticed. They both pretended he didn't. Silence again, but not empty silence. Loaded, heavy. He cleared his throat. "I wrote something." She didn't ask what. She already knew. He always wrote after he broke her. It was his way of not apologizing. She hated how beautiful he could make pain sound. She loved it too. That was the curse. He pulled out his phone, played a voice memo. His voice filled the rooftop. Low, raw, fragile. "I should have told you," he sang. "I was scared you'd stay." She covered her mouth with her hand. Her body shook. But she still didn't cry. She wouldn't give him that. Not yet. When the song ended, he looked up. "Well," she whispered. "You always sing better when you're guilty." He smiled. She didn't. She stood up from the bench. Not because she wanted to leave, but because her legs had gone numb. From sitting, from waiting, from remembering. He followed her. Of course he did. He always followed when it was too late. They walked down the rooftop. Stairs together. Their footsteps echoed like old arguments. The hallway smelled like lilies and regret. Neither of them spoke, because if they did, they might say too much. Or worse, say nothing at all. She stopped at the elevator, pressed the button with trembling fingers. He stared at the wall, reading the fire escape sign like it held answers. "Do you regret it?" she asked suddenly. He blinked. "Regret what?" "Everything." The elevator dinged. She stepped in. He didn't. The doors began to close. He whispered, "Not everything." But by then, she was gone. Back in her room, she paced, then stood still, then sat, then stood again. She didn't know how to hold her feelings anymore. They spilled out of her like broken glass, sharp, scattered, unfixable. She grabbed her notebook, not to write, but to press it against her chest, as if it could stop the pain. Abel's scent was still on her scarf, a mix of cedarwood and contradiction. She opened the balcony door, stepped outside. Paris was loud below, but her world was mute. She whispered, "Why did I come here?" And the wind answered, "Because you still love him." She hated how true that felt. Love wasn't supposed to survive betrayal, but hers did, like a weed in cracked pavement, ugly, unwanted, but still growing. She sat on the cold floor, hugged her knees. Her phone buzzed. Abel. Again. She didn't open it, she just stared, wondering if ghosts could text, because that's what he was now. A living ghost. She closed her eyes, and for a moment let herself pretend that the rooftop didn't happen, that the pain was someone else's story, that she was whole. But lies don't last long, not even the ones we tell ourselves. She woke up on the floor hours later, neck stiff, heart heavier. The sky outside was pale blue, like it couldn't decide to rain or shine. She brushed her teeth, washed her face, didn't look in the mirror. She wasn't ready to see herself. Not yet. Room service arrived. She didn't touch the food. Instead, she opened her suitcase, pulled out the bracelet, thin, silver, silent. She held it in her palm, stared at it like it might speak. She remembered when he gave it to her. "No, meaning," he had said. "That's the point." But of course it had meaning. Everything did. She slipped it onto her wrist, felt it burn. Or maybe that was her. She checked her phone again. Still no new message. Just the old one, still unread. Still haunting. She sighed. Packed her bag. She needed to leave. Leave Paris. Leave the ache. But how do you leave someone who lives inside your breath? She didn't. No. But she had to try. The airport was crowded. She kept her sunglasses on. Not for the cameras. There weren't any. But for the pain. Eyes betray us more than mouths ever could. She boarded the plane. Sat by the window. Watched raindrops chase each other on the glass. She imagined one of them was her. Running. Sliding. Eventually vanishing. The plane took off. But her heart didn't. It stayed grounded in Paris. Somewhere between a rooftop and a broken melody. She stared out the window, not seeing anything. Just remembering. Always remembering. The seatbelt sign dinged. She didn't notice. The flight attendant smiled politely. Selena nodded out of habit. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Not since him. Not since she realized she had lost something she never truly had. She leaned her head against the window, closed her eyes. But rest didn't come. Only his voice, echoing from old voicemails, old rehearsals, old dreams. She reached for her notebook. The leather cover was cracked from overuse. She flipped to a blank page. But the words wouldn't come. Just like him. She wrote 3 letters. A, B, E, then stopped. It hurt too much. The pen trembled in her fingers. She drew a single line across him, the page, then closed the book. That was all she had to say. For now. The plane landed hours later. Back in Los Angeles. Back to the city of noise and nothingness. Her driver met her with a gentle smile. He didn't ask questions. He never did. She liked that. People who didn't ask allowed her to pretend that she was okay, that this wasn't breaking her slowly. She arrived at her building. Same doorman, same hallway, same apartment, but it all felt unfamiliar, like someone had rearranged her life while she was away. She stepped inside. Everything smelled the same. Lavender and faint vanilla. Her comfort sense. But she didn't feel comfort, just a strange kind of distance. Like her body had returned, but her soul was still boarding. She dropped her bag, shoes still on, walked straight to the balcony, looked out over the city. The skyline was unchanged. Unlike her, she was no longer the woman who left. She was someone else now, sadder, wiser, quieter. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't look. She couldn't. Not tonight. She left it on the kitchen counter, face down, as if that would keep the memories inside it from escaping. She changed into sweatpants, an old t-shirt, washed her face, brushed her teeth, then sat on the floor, right in the center of her living room, legs crossed, hands open, eyes closed. She tried to breathe, but even her breath felt borrowed. She whispered, "Please let this be the last time." But she didn't believe herself, because love doesn't leave clean. It leaves blood behind, and he still stained her. She opened her eyes, stared at the ceiling, and for the first time in weeks, she cried. Not silently, not secretly, but fully, loudly, sobbing like a child who lost their home because she had. She just hadn't realized it was built inside him. And now, it was gone. The tears didn't stop for a while, and for the first time, she let them stay. She didn't wipe them away, didn't silence them, didn't feel embarrassed, because grief has its own language. And she was finally fluent. When the sobs faded into sniffles, she lay on the floor. The cold tiles kissed her cheek. She felt grounded. Heavy, yes, but grounded. The ceiling looked the same, white, plain, but her gaze turned it into a canvas, a blank one, and she thought, maybe I can paint something new here. Maybe I can become someone new. Maybe. The sun began to rise behind the hills. Orange light slipped into her apartment like forgiveness. It rested on her face, and she didn't turn away. Not this time. She sat up slowly, muscles aching, but her heart just a little lighter. She made herself tea, the same kind. But today, she drank it. Every sip said, "You're still here." She pulled her curtains wide. Let the light in. She opened the windows. Let the noise in. Birds, cars, voices of strangers she didn't know. She welcomed it all, because silence was no longer her friend. It was time to change things. She made a list, simple, small, but it was a start. Go for a walk, call mom, water the plants, eat something green, sing. Not for an audience, just for herself. She got dressed, no makeup, hair still wet. She grabbed her keys and left the house. For the first time in days, the air smelled different, or maybe she did. Either way, something had shifted. She walked through her neighborhood. No one stopped her. No one pointed. She was invisible again. But this time, it felt like freedom. She smiled at a dog, bought herself a croissant, sat on a bench and watched the world move, slowly, softly. She took out her notebook, wrote, "I thought I needed him, but what I needed was air, and I'm finally breathing again." Her phone buzzed. She checked it this time. Not him. Good. She didn't want the illusion anymore. She wanted the truth, even if it was lonely. She texted her mother, "Hey, I'm okay. I promise." Her mother replied instantly, "I knew you would be." She cried again, but not from pain, from grace, from being seen. She went home, took a long shower, sang under the water, not a song he wrote, not a sad one of her own, from before, from when she still remembered who she was. She looked in the mirror, really looked. There she was, tired, wounded, but there, still here, still fighting, still beautiful. She touched the bracelet on her wrist. It didn't burn anymore. It just existed, like an old scar, proof of survival. The days that followed felt quiet, not empty, just still, like her soul had exhaled after holding its breath for too long. She woke up early, not from anxiety, but because she wanted to. She made her bed, cooked her own breakfast, ate slowly, savoring each bite like it meant something. Because now everything did, even toast with honey. She smiled at the sunlight as it spilled through the window, let it warm her cheeks. Didn't rush to check her phone, didn't scroll for validation. She was full without attention, full without him, and it was beautiful. She opened her email, offers, invites, old friends asking if she was back. But she was never gone, just silent. And silence had taught her things applause never could. She replied to a few messages, deleted the rest. Her piece was not for sale. Not anymore. Later that day, she went to the studio. Her team was already there, waiting. They greeted her with soft eyes and cautious hope. They didn't ask what happened. She was grateful. They played the demo of Version of Me. It filled the room like a confession. They all sat still. No one breathed too loud. No one wanted to interrupt what healing sounded like. When the track ended, someone whispered, "This is the one." She nodded, knew it, felt it. They scheduled the album release. She picked the title, Fragments, because every song was a shard of her former self, broken, sharp, but still glinting in the light. The cover photo was simple, just her eyes. No makeup, no edits, just truth. The release was set for midnight. She didn't stay up to watch. She lit a candle, said thank you to no one in particular, and slept, like a child, like a queen, like someone who had survived a storm and decided to plant flowers in the wreckage. In the morning, it was trending, worldwide, millions of streams, endless comments. "You saved me. I see myself in this." This album isn't music, it's medicine. But she didn't open the comments. She didn't need to, because the validation had already come. From within, she went for a walk in the hills, headphones in, but not playing anything, just letting the wind speak. And it did. It whispered, "You're still here." She paused at a bench, sat down, looked out at the city, the place that once swallowed her. Now it simply breathed beneath her. She took a breath, long, full, clean. She didn't cry, not because she wasn't emotional, but because the wound had closed, and what remained was not sadness, but softness, strength, peace. She whispered, "Thank you, Abel." Not with bitterness, not with hope, with grace. Because not all pain needs revenge. Some just need to be released.